Today's tutorial will be on contemporary development economics. Now, under the broad heading of environment and development, we will talk about globalization and development today. And this discussion will be based on a welfare approach. So, let us begin. Now, I have used the word globalization when I introduce the topic to you. So, when we say globalization, the first word that comes to my mind is trade. So, we will start with trade. Now, trade occurs if autarky prices differ. Now, the question arises why it will differ. Now, these prices will differ only if number one, so there are two parts to this: supply conditions being the same, the demand condition differs, and the other part is that demand conditions being the same, the supply conditions differ. Now, I'll concentrate on this part. Now, the supply condition differs if either there is technology, the technology differs, endowments being the same. Okay. Now, environment may be posited as the basis of trade when demand and conventional supply curve are given to be identical. Now, we will make some assumptions. The first is that the LDCs or the low developing countries follow no environmental policy, while the developed country, I am just writing DC, follow strict environmental standard. Now, these differences in environmental standard can be explained in terms of, that means the thing which the weapon which we are going to introduce today is the environment Kuznets curve. And throughout this tutorial, whenever I write EKC, this abbreviation, it actually means environment Kuznets curve. So, given this, it follows that clear environment, or let me change the color, make it a little green. So, clear environment is demanded, and this demand is as a normal commodity. Now, when this situation will arise only when everyone has high level of income, or it is demanded as normal commodity only at high levels of income. Now, the developed country, as I have said, follows strict environmental standard. So, environment as a normal commodity is not demanded at low level of income. Therefore, these LDCs do not have strong or strict standard. Now, given the differences in this environmental standard, that means how we have given the shape to the setup, we get a supply side basis of trade. So let me draw a figure first for you. So it will be a two lines which I am drawing, two axes rather. On one I am just measuring x, and on the other I am measuring the price of x. Okay, so this is point is A, so it has the intercept D, and then you have this is a private marginal cost, and draw one more line, and this is, so there is a divergence, there is social marginal cost. Let me mark the figures now. So this is say E, this is say F. Okay, this is say F. Now I'll mark the two prices. So this is P1. Just once I'm marking P1, and later we will do it. So, and let me mark this also. This is our P2. Okay, now let me pick another color so it becomes easy. So autarky, we will define the diagram we have just drawn. Prices are P1 and P2. This is because the higher social marginal cost curve represents the supply curve, and this supply curve is the one of the developed countries, while the low or lower private marginal cost curve is the supply curve of the less developed countries. Now if the trade occurs at a new price, say it will be, let me mark it with green, that will be much more easier. So say this is the new price at which trade will occur, so P star. So this point, let me mark it as A dash, this is B because A I have already used, and this is C. So what we see is that if the trade occurs at the price P star, then the developed country produces less of the polluting good, as you can see, because they have moved down the social marginal cost curve, and consume, and so they produce less and consume more of it, and the less developed countries produces more of the polluting good and consume less of it compared to the respective autarky equilibrium positions. Okay, now this must have some implications. So environment as a basis of trade actually has two implications. What are these? So given the intersectional resource mobility within each country, capital is likely to flow more and more into the polluting sector, and this will happen in case of low developing countries, that is, such economies may actually rush to the bottom. and this will lead to environmental disaster, and it runs counter to sustainable development. So this is one implication, and the other implication is that if capital is internationally mobile, then this low developing countries or less developing countries may invite foreign capital, and they will invite it into the polluting sector, and what this will lead to, this will give a rise to the scenario of pollution heaven hypothesis. One analysis shows, or the analysis of the intersectoral and international mobility of capital gives, like say for the industry like pulp and paper, or you can even give the example of organic, inorganic, etc., tended to the coverage was actually done in the LDCs, okay, and strongly support this view. Now with this we are gonna end or wind up today's tutorial. In our next class we will continue our discussion with regard to the welfare approach of globalization and environment. So that will be part 2.